So let me introduce you to some of the anchoring proteins that we have talked about in the previous module. And we'll discuss some of the features of these proteins. And then in the subsequent module, we'll look at the role of these proteins in a greater detail. First of all, let's look at some of these proteins that are anchored, called anchoring proteins, which interact with the cytoplasmic domain of the beta subunit. This is a slide we saw from our previous module. So this is where we are going to focus now. Some of the proteins that I'll be talking about basically help in this interaction, the interaction of the cytoskeleton with the cytoplasmic domain of the beta subunit. So let's look at some of them. Talin, it is a very important protein. It binds with high affinity to vinculin, links integrin to actin cytoskeleton either directly or indirectly via alpha-actinin or also via vinculin. We'll talk about, I'll show you diagrams of this later on. Alpha-actinins, they belong to the spectrin gene superfamily. Remember, we have talked about there's a network of spectrin just underneath the plasma membrane. So these alpha-actinins, they belong to a spectrin gene superfamily, which represents a diverse group of cytoskeletal proteins, including alpha and beta spectrins and dystrophins. Dystrophin is one of the molecules, for example, which if there's a mutation in the gene coding dystrophin, or if this molecule is not functioning properly, it can cause muscular dystrophy. They form these alpha-actinins. They can be found along microfilaments or actin filaments, and they microfilament bundles and adherent junctions where it is this protein alpha-actinin is involved in binding actin to membrane. Filamin, it is also a very important protein, plays a key role in cellular biomechanics as an actin cross-linker and as a versatile focal adhesion binding partner. So we'll look at the structures of focal adhesions, but let me mention the cross-linking function of this protein is fairly important. The more cross-linking actin filaments takes place in actin filaments, the stronger the strength of this the actin filaments increases. Filaments are also connect multiple transmembrane proteins and signaling proteins to cytoskeleton. Vinculin, we'll talk about this protein in much more detail later on, but let me mention this here that vinculin is a membrane cytoskeletal protein in focal adhesions, and it is involved in linking integrin adhesion molecules to actin cytoskeleton. Vinculin is also associated with focal adhesions and adherent junctions, which are complexes that are nucleated, where the actin filaments are nucleated, meaning that we will talk about cytoskeleton in a different module, but we have seen movies where actin filaments start to grow. So where do they grow from? These structures, basically vinculin and another molecule, they basically form seeds from where actin filaments can grow. Just to emphasize the importance of vinculin, let me present you a study. The researchers at University of California, San Diego, found that contractile function of the hearts of fruit flies is greatly improved in flies that are overexpressing vinculin, which also accumulates at higher levels in heart of aging rats, monkeys, and humans. So more vinculin helps with the structure of heart and connects heart muscle cells. So that is why this vinculin there's a abundance of vinculin as these animals grow old. The result of these studies, it was published in 2015, implicate vinculin as future candidate for therapy for people at risk of age-related heart failure. So these are very, very important proteins that play multiple roles, and they basically can not only interact with adhesion molecules, but also with the cytoskeletal elements. Let me again mention this. I know we have talked about this before, but plasma membrane basically does not have any structural strength. So adhesion molecules present in the plasma membrane will just float around, even if they were attached to a substrate. Here, this brown substance is our ECM. So they will not be able to resist any forces, because if For example, if this bowl of water is pushed in this direction, there is nothing stopping this bowl from moving. However, if this ball was tied to some structural element, in this case, the cup, the solid cup is our structural element. Now, if we push this cup, it will not be able to move. So, again, attachment of integrant molecules or adhesion molecules to substrate is important, but just as important is their attachment to something substantial or, in this case, the cytoskeletal elements.